Farm Progress Broadcast presents This Week in Agribusiness, serving America's most essential industry. Brought to you by Case IH, solutions for every challenge, equipment for every farm. Case IH, built by farmers.
Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us here for This Week in Agribusiness. It was a tough week, largely in the commodity markets, but there was a piece of bright news, potentially, for corn growers. There was a policy shift announced south of the border, and joining me now to talk about it is Nancy Martinez. She's the Director of Government Affairs, Trade, and Biotechnology with the National Corn Growers Association. And Nancy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about what happened in Mexico. It sounds as if that country is not going to be looking to restrict imports of U.S. yellow GMO corn. Is that accurate?
So the comments made in the media from Mexico's incoming administration do not actually take necessary action to roll back their existing measures to ban GE corn. So the presidential decree and the NOM have not been formally rescinded, and there's not been any assurances that legislature in the Mexican Congress will not advance. So our position from NCGA has not changed. We want the dispute settlement case to move forward.
Let's talk about that dispute settlement case, Nancy, because it comes back to that at the end of the day. What is the U.S. pursuing here with Mexico?
Right. So the USTR announced that they were pursuing a dispute settlement case under USMCA because of Mexico's trade restrictive actions banning GE corn. So the case is moving forward as scheduled right now. There was a public hearing that happened on June 26th and 27th, and a final report will be publicly released on the second half of November. We thought the U.S. lawyers did a great job making the case for why GE corn is safe for human consumption. So we look forward to that panel going through all that data and getting to the final report in November.
So Nancy, if the Mexican legislature takes the steps to alleviate some of those earlier requirements from the past presidential administration, would that negate the dispute going forward with USMCA?
So the dispute is on its own separate track. So this is a process that will not be influenced by comments or other legislation sort of percolating. So we just really encourage the process to play out under USMCA. It's there for a reason. And we're committing to seeing that to the final report in November.
Now, Nancy, of course, Mexico is announcing this change. Granted, haven't seen any action, but the announcement makes it sound as if this administration recognizes the value of U.S. corn imports. Is that the sense that NCGA is getting from this new administration, or am I misreading things?
I would say that the new Mexican administration is still taking a big page from the prior administration. We know that GE corn is safe for humans and it's safe in animal feed. We want that to be recognized on both accounts. And it would be a huge loss to the scientific community globally if we were to somehow walk back any of that safety reports.
Absolutely, and a loss to the Mexican livestock industry, which is going to feed record amounts of U.S. yellow corn this year. Nancy, that Mexico issue sounds like it will be ongoing, though it is nice to see some action on that front in Mexico. Let's look more broadly. Around the world, what other issues are you watching from the perspective of NCGA?
Yeah, so right now the cost of inputs is extraordinarily high for our corn growers. So there's a couple different investigations at the Commerce Department that we're looking into and active about. You know, we don't want prices to go up for herbicides and fertilizers, so we're very active in telling Commerce what that means for our grower impact. Another thing that we're tracking is Brazil's ethanol tariff. It's very harmful. It's reduced market access for ethanol production. And, you know, separately, we're always looking for more market access, which means reducing trade barriers and actually having some trade agreements or trade frameworks, making inroads to those customers that we have not traditionally had.
That's always good to see. It's best when we can grow that pie for all corn growers here in the United States. Nancy Martinez, Director of Government Affairs, Trade, and Biotechnology with the National Corn Growers Association. Thank you so much for joining us this week and filling us in on Mexico's trade policy. Today's larger, heavier equipment can lead to more soil compaction issues. Firestone Ag IFVF tires with AD2 technology maximize load capacity while minimizing soil compaction. Visit firestoneag.com to learn more. It's time to talk markets. Dwayne Bussey of Bolt Marketing joins us this week. And Dwayne, it was a grim week in the grain trade. It was a grim week in the cattle complex, but let's dive into the numbers. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Let's start here with the cattle complex. Dwayne, we have been watching this market rally and then stay near historic highs for over a year now. The question is, how much longer can it run? What's your opinion? Is this live cattle market starting to turn down?
The futures market this week, the trade action, like I like to call it, it definitely appeared to be a little toppish. Last week we had cash cattle trade near record highs, some 200, in a wide range. There's some packers that are desperate and have to pay crazy high prices, and others are backing off a little bit. But the futures market this week looked a little bit like we're forming a top here. And maybe that just comes down to the funds, Mike. Maybe they just don't want to be long anymore.
Where are the funds sitting? Dwayne, what have we been watching for their trends?
Well, that's the funny thing is it's not like they're record long. They're just kind of in between. And what I mean by funds is the managed funds. So they can either go long or short this market. They tend to always go long and not short. But I think they're seeing exactly what you mentioned. We're at historic high levels, box beef prices at high levels. Maybe we're getting a little bit too expensive out here, and exports are faltering in the world, at least from us anyway. So maybe they just kind of felt like it's time to start taking some profits, and that could lead towards a peak in this market.
All right, so if we're watching this market peak, Dwayne, that's live cattle side. On the feeder cattle side, at the auction level, I'm still seeing very high prices paid for these feeder cattle. How are these feedlots managing that risk?
It's hard to because of those high prices you mentioned. I've got guys that told me this week, they were looking at some calves and they said they didn't buy them. And I kind of said, thank goodness, because they told me their break evens would be around 214. Wow. Now that's on the live side. And I fell over in my chair. I'm like, I don't know what kind of marketing magic I can make to make that work. So yeah, the calf prices are still very high out there. Now, the cow-calf guy, I feel like, should take advantage of this. If I'm right and this market's peaking, and maybe it doesn't matter what I think, these are historically high levels that I think on the cow-calf guy, they need to just start locking this in. You can sell them early on a web live cattle-like auction. You can buy LRP, you can buy put options if you're still bullish, or you can just sell the board. But I do think it's time for guys to be hedging there.
Take some of that risk off the table, put it in your pocket if it's there for your operation. Dwayne, as we're thinking, you mentioned boxed beef has been very strong. We've seen the consumer willing to spend this kind of money. The question has been inflation. And I know we got an update this past week. It sounds as if inflation might be slowing. Could that be supportive of beef as we get longer in the year?
Yeah, it could be, because if inflation is backing off, the first thing the market starts to think is like, okay, interest rates are going to back off. And I don't know if that necessarily has to happen, but that's what the trade's going to perceive it as. And demand has been great, you're right. But what I have seen is like on our export market, a few weeks ago, I read an article that talked about China. Their buyers there, about a year and a half ago, they started to really buy our meat and like our meat, the high protein, high marbling meat, the high quality stuff, right? That's what we're all proud of. They've started to back off a little bit of these high prices and go to other things. And you look at the pork market this last week, they got beat up badly. Obviously, there's some cheaper protein sources out there. So I'm afraid it's export demand that'll really hurt us here.
All right, we've got to watch not just what's happening in the United States, but what is happening around the world with this global commodity trade. Dwayne Bussey of Bolt Marketing will be back with more market analysis after this. Today's larger, heavier equipment can lead to more soil compaction issues. Firestone Ag IFVF tires with 82 technology maximize load capacity while minimizing soil compaction. Visit firestoneag.com to learn more. And we're back talking markets with Dwayne Bussey of Bolt Marketing. Dwayne, you're up in South Dakota. We've heard a lot about that crop's challenges so far this growing season. Fill us in. How do things look out your back window?
It doesn't look that great, actually. I mean, it was an interesting spring. In February, we were so warm and dry. We were excited thinking we were going to plant early and I'd be done and be able to enjoy baseball even more than I still do anyway. But it ended up being a rush at the end to get as much planted as possible around June 10th. I remember we were planting June 13th and then got heavy rains afterwards. So honestly, our corn is only waist to chest high, and I'm concerned about that. It looks okay, though, but soybeans are in that ugly short stage, a little bit yellowing. So not a great crop in the Dakotas. The crop conditions are maybe a little bit elevated than they probably should be, but we are the Dakotas, not the I-states. So, I mean, the market's not going to really look at that too much.
It doesn't seem to be. It seems to continue watching that downward trend develop. Dwayne, one of the places we've seen that downward trend very strongly is in the bean products, meal and oil. What's driving that breakdown right now in the trade?
It probably always comes back to China, right? And China's going to have a lot of soybeans coming from South America, namely Brazil, in July and August. So they haven't been buying our new crop product that much yet, but I think they're going to have to, Mike. And the product signs are a little different. This whole veg oil and what is used veg oil, what's coming into the U.S., there's really a lot of uncertainty out there. Now, recently, soybean oil, actually, the funds have really started to buy our soybean oil product. That's great because maybe that'll help our raw soybeans. But as you and I well know, a soybean meal rally would be better than a soybean oil rally. But for now, soybean oil is the first one to pop here.
All right. And, we're watching demand all through these products here. Ethanol, Dwayne, as we look at the summer, it's driving season. We expect to see ethanol demand increase. Are you watching that? Are you hearing reports from refiners that it's moving in the right direction?
Yeah, I think it is. I think profit margins are headed in the right direction. And, look at the price of oil, how low it is. That helps as well, too. And it sounds like over the July 4th, we had a record amount of travel. So that's good for profit margins there, too. The word is there's plenty of corn left out there for ethanol plants to buy. The problem is farmers are pretty hard holders at these low prices. And maybe that's a bit of a mistake. The basis levels are suggesting there's not that much crop out there, but I'm afraid it is. It's just farmers are in pretty good financial states that they want to hold for a better price.
Are you watching that basis across the country? Is it relatively strong for this time of year, given the fact that farmers are holding so much grain?
Actually, it is very strong if you consider USDA is accurate with their on-farm storage. On-farm storage is very high, so we should be seeing a lot of farmers selling, a lot of pressure on these markets. But the funny thing is, the spreads in the basis suggest it's almost not there. Don't let that be too deceiving and get too bullish. I'm afraid it is there. I just think farmers are looking back at May and going, I know what I should have done, but now I don't want to sell down here. And I'm okay with that at these levels, Mike. I mean, my goodness, we are fairly low. Corn weather season is probably wrapping up a little bit. You can hold for another month, but I think the best thing is probably move that old crop and buy it back on the board if you are bullish.
Take that risk, get it off your plate, make it a little bit more managed. Dwayne Bussey, Bolt Marketing. We always appreciate your insight when these markets are volatile, and thanks for joining us here on This Week in Agribusiness.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
And on Friday's July update to the World Agricultural Supply and Demand estimates from the USDA, traders found a few bullish surprises in the corn market. Globally, changes were minor on the commodity balance sheets, with USDA reporting global ending stocks of corn slightly below expectations, while both soybeans and wheat were more plentiful than analysts anticipated. With only small changes expected to production in Argentina and Brazil, traders focused their attention on the U.S. crop predictions. For this year's corn crop, the USDA analysts expect to see a harvest of 15.1 billion bushels, slightly larger than the trade's average guess, but the larger crop was more than balanced by a 150 million bushel cut to this season's ending stocks. For soybeans, the report was more muted. A very small reduction in the size of this year's bean crop was reported, and global supplies remain ample. But it was bearish for wheat growers, as all wheat production was expected higher by nearly 200 million bushels, leading to double-digit losses on Friday in the futures markets.
Greg Solier now brings us his farm weather forecast for the week ahead.
Well, it's been active weather-wise this summer. Greg, does next week look like it's going to be busy as well?
That's right, Mike. Busy and active on a number of fronts. Heat-related issues, tropical weather already, and a wide-ranging impact storm. And too much or too little of a good thing, with dryness and drought or flooding in mind, especially east of the divide into the Missouri River Valley and points to the north and east from there. But back to the west, here in the Pacific Northwest, there it is, the hot dome of high pressure centered across Idaho. Triple-digit readings last week into Washington State, Big Sky Country to 105 and points on southward. Little change early in the week as the heat continues on there, and this ring of fire setup continues on with the northwest to southeast jet stream pattern out of western Canada, dropping into the northern plains and serving up again a couple of scattered showers and thunderstorms for sections of the upper Midwest. As the heat wears on and the week wears on, there is a bit of a subtle pattern shift, some flattening of the hot ridge across the northwestern part of the country, allowing for some cooler, drier air to move in at least across areas of the Dakotas, but still along the periphery of the heat and the cool. Storm clusters may be heavy and severe, but at least some additional rainfall prospects in some of the drought areas of Montana. We'll get some slight cooling into the Pacific Northwest and a couple of spotty showers. The heat focused southward across sections of the Great Basin and Intermountain West. It's the old monsoon season underway across eastern Arizona, the Four Corners and points onto the east. This is a kind of a weak tropical system that may have drifted in off the Pacific and or the western Gulf of Mexico. The downpours and the flash flooding potential potential continue on through New Mexico, southwestern sections of the high plains, and farther to the north, you can see those storm clusters on the periphery of that northwest to southeast jet stream pattern in through Nebraska and points on to the east. As the week wears on, the heat is still dominant across areas of the Intermountain West and out through the at least central ranges of California and valley locales too. They are up to 125 degrees in Death Valley and Palm Springs last week. And yeah, that's a tropical system off the Pacific Basin that will introduce some organized rainfall, perhaps flash flood potential over the rest of Arizona, the lower desert, and scattered showers and thunderstorms continue on across parts of the central and southern winter wheat belt. Boy, that Texas crop is in a world of hurt. Too much rain or too little rain. Meanwhile, through the upper Midwest, there is a sign of some cooler, drier air on the move out of the Canadian Prairie. One boundary through the upper Midwest. The heat early in the week focused across parts of the waterlogged western and southwestern Corn Belt. How about those rains across central Illinois and parts of Indiana last week? That cool front and cooler air is on the move. Another little ripple will move along this boundary out of the Great Plains into the central Corn Belt with a scattering of showers and thunderstorms and relief from some of the low to mid 90s to cooler, drier air through the upper Midwest and Great Lakes region as the heat kind of retrogrades, fancy word for backing up to the west and south into the high plains and central and southern plain states locales. The tropics are busy. Boy, Beryl did a number. They're still in cleanup and recovery mode into eastern Texas. There's a disturbance across the Rio Grande early in the week with more downpour producing showers and thunderstorms. That tropical system out and one drifts in off of Baja out of the Pacific, introducing showers and thunderstorms and some flooding potential across West Texas and the southwestern sections of the country. Some short-term relief from the heat and humidity and maybe some organized rainfall for parts of the central and southern plains later in the week. 2 to as much as 6 inches of rain last week across the central Corn Belt locales and flooding rain all the way into the northeast of New England, but it's a much quieter weather picture with cooler air on the move out of the upper Midwest. It'll generate a couple of showers and thunderstorms into some of the wetter areas of the southern Corn Belt later in the week with a pretty delightful go of it for outdoor work, and it's fair going season already across the Corn Belt and the Midwest with showers and thunderstorms back into the northeast of New England. We're keeping an eye on the Outer Banks areas, the western Atlantic for tropical development there. Showers and thunderstorms in through Texas, and it's widespread rainfall with added drought relief we needed over the drought areas of the Carolinas southward in through Georgia.
Closed captioning for This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Pentair Hypro, a global leader in innovative spray technology for farmers for over 75 years.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to This Week in Agribusiness. We're 2 weeks now behind the USDA's reporting of acreage numbers here at the end of June. And since that time, we've seen the market really kind of come to grips with the size of the crop that's growing, both corn, soybeans, wheat, and specialty crops. One of those acreages that were reported were sunflower acres here in the United States. It's a crop that saw a huge boom following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now the question is, where does it go from here? Joining us now to discuss it is John Sandbakken. He serves as the Executive Director for the National Sunflower Association. And John, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for your program today, Mike.
Let's talk a little bit about sunflower acreage, John. 32% decline this year versus last year. Was this something the industry was anticipating?
You know, it was, Mike. You know, we had really large crops in 22 and 23. We had quite a bit of seed carryover going into the winter. And so usually when you're in a situation like that, we're going to tend to see acreage decline. So it was something that was anticipated, but you know, seed supply was pretty strong. As you mentioned, we'd ramped up, you know, right after the Ukrainian invasion and all that. So just more seed than what the market could use.
Let's talk a little bit about where that seed goes. John, sunflowers, you know, I eat them, seed on in the hull there in the car while I'm traveling, but that's a very small percentage of the market. Can you tell us, where does a sunflower go generally after harvesting?
Well, you know, about 80 to 85% of our crop here in the U.S. is for oil production or for bird food use. The remainder is for the confectionery seeds that you find in the snack foods. And so, you know, for oil, we consume about 75% of the oil we produce here in the U.S. and about 25% is exported. And on the confection side, it's more of a 50-50 split. You know, we do export about half the crop out, you know, Spain, Mexico, Canada are some of our largest markets. But we consume about 50% of it domestically.
John, I'm wondering, with the conversion of so much sunflower into oil, as I think of the other veg oil markets, corn oil, soybean oil, we've seen substantial price declines over the past year. Has sunflower oil faced the same challenges?
we're being a smaller crop. We've not felt that pressure. We did at harvest, our prices, like for example, for seed, we were down to about like $13 a hundredweight. And since that time, we've ramped up to, we're about $17, $18 a hundredweight. In fact, we're on the uptrend, which is kind of, when you see what's happening with the big three commodities, we're one of those that are kind of rising. And so it's good. Like I said, it's not a large market, but then again, it's one that we didn't feel that effective where oil prices went.
Well, John, if I hear that the market is rising, that makes me wonder if there aren't concerns growing out in the fields. I know you have a chance to talk to growers. You get a chance to see some of the sunflower acreage. How's it look? I mean, do we have some challenges for growers this year?
In some places we had a little bit excessive rain, especially in South Dakota. We did lose some acres there. Some acres did not get planted, and some of that, where they were sitting in water for a while, that really did hurt. But overall, the crop that did get in the ground and is growing looks really nice right now. I'd say we're off to a really good start. We're supposed to get some heat this week in the major growing states, which is what we need to get the crop caught up a little bit. But overall, it's looking like it's going to be a really nice crop this year.
When would you expect harvest to get underway for the sunflower crop here in North America?
Normally, we get started at end of September, first part of October, but this year I think it's going to be just a bit later because of the later start that we had. But I'm thinking that by mid-October, we'll be rolling and things will be harvested by then. At least get started anyway.
All right. Hopefully we can get weather to cooperate while those sunflowers mature. And John, of course, once we harvest, then we've got to market them. As you mentioned, we've got both a mix of domestic use and export business. On the export side, as you talk to folks in the industry, how does the future look? Are we finding more international buyers for American sunflower oil?
Well, the export market has been tough. I mean, our main market is Canada right now, and about 75% of the oil we produce for export goes to Canada. We have a very good price advantage and transportation advantage moving into Canada. So that's our key market. But, some of the other countries, it's been very difficult. Strong dollar has been impacting exports, for a lot of ours, especially for the confectionery seeds. It's been a little bit more difficult. But, who knows what's going to happen down the road. But, exports are a little bit tough right now. But, there's always the potential that we can get those sales back in the future.
Got to get those sales back. It's all about growing that pie for American sunflower producers. John, we've also got a farm bill negotiation happening in Washington, D.C. Are you hearing any concerns from sunflower producers specifically for politics or policy as we get closer to this election?
Well, I think a lot of people would like to have that certainty and have the farm bill passed. But, given that it's an election year this year, especially with both houses of Congress up and the presidency, it's probably more likely we won't see a farm bill till, if anything, maybe if we get lucky in the lame duck session, but I'm thinking it's more so going to be in 2025. Producers obviously want certainty. You kind of want to know what you're going to have as far as crop insurance, what that going to look like, what are our reference prices going to look like. That's obviously a big concern with production costs being up. So, we do need that certainty, and that's what they'd like to see.
Absolutely. John, of course, National Sunflower Association keeps track of the sunflower industry here across North America. You're plugged in as to what's happening in the markets and exports and in production. If we've got viewers who want to keep more up to speed with what's happening in the sunflower industry, where would you recommend they go for information?
Well, our website is like the Bible for sunflower. I mean, it's got everything in there. I mean, at www.sunflowernsa.com. If you're looking for production news, if you're looking for markets, how to grow sunflower, anything that's sunflower related, it's going to be on our website.
It's all right there, Sunflower NSA. That's John Sandbakken, Executive Director of the National Sunflower Association. John, thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me on your program today. I appreciate it.
And folks, stay with us. We'll have more This Week in Agribusiness after this.
Farm Progress Broadcast presents This Week in Agribusiness, serving America's most essential industry. Brought to you by Case IH, solutions for every challenge, equipment for every farm. Case IH, built by farmers.
Welcome back to This Week in Agribusiness. I'm Mike Pearson. Across the country this year, many growers have struggled with weather challenges, and that's true across the Southeast as well. Nutrient Ag Solutions crop consultants have been keeping an eye on agronomy for your acres, and this week, Eric Lee of Moultrie, Georgia, joins us for an update with peanut producers. Eric, thanks for taking the time to talk with us.
Thanks, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here.
I understand peanut growers have had a wet, late season. Eric, fill us in. What have been their challenges this year?
Yeah, Mike, typically growers are being planted in May. Peanut growers, they like to plant in May. And we had an extremely wet May, which is typically not very common in this area. Usually we have a pretty dry May, but it was switched this time. A lot of guys were starting to plant and just got rained out of the field. So that kind of put us behind at least from 2 weeks to maybe even 4 weeks in some places.
How do conditions look in the fields right now with that wetness?
Fields are looking good. We've had a lot of heat lately, so we're catching up. Our crop is looking pretty good. We're starting to get some late afternoon showers. So overall, I think we're okay.
So we're okay. We had that late start. The question now is, what can growers do to maximize their returns given the season so far? Eric, what are your suggestions?
Yeah, just staying on schedule with fungicide sprays. Whenever we get these late afternoon showers, we'll get a hot and wet effect of dry and wet. And so we're starting to see a lot of our molds start to take place in some of our peanuts. So just staying on schedule with some of our fungicide sprays and also being able to push that crop along. We use a lot of Radiate with Quick Ultra with Awaken in our peanut acres. Both are excellent products. We like to push that peanut along, try to grow some of that root crop and limb crop. So both of those products are really good.
All right, they make a lot of sense in a season like this one. Eric, let's take a step back, look out to the future. Innovation is always coming in our industry. In 2025, are there any products that you're excited about coming into the market?
Yeah, so you see this peanut field that I'm standing in currently is actually a Dynagrow peanut. It will be the first Dynagrow peanut that Dynagrow has brought to the market. And this is actually a seed production field. So we're looking forward to the future, and hopefully we can bring a product to the field that growers are able to use and capitalize or profit as much as possible.
Eric, where can our viewers go for more information?
Yeah, you can go to your local nutrient rep or your nutrient store, or you can go to Dynagrow Seed on the website.
Fantastic. Lots to learn here in this growing season. We've been talking with Eric Lee of Nutrien Ag Solutions, crop consultant out of Moultrie, Georgia, about the challenges facing the peanut growers this year. And Eric, thank you so much for joining us and filling us in.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
You can learn more at nutrienagsolutions.com.
Greg Solier is back now with his extended farm weather forecast for the nation.
Well, Greg, precipitation totals next week. Who's going to get what and when?
Well, Mike, it's haves versus have-nots all over again. Some of the worst waterlogged areas of the country expected to come up with more rainfall. And boy, the tropics, as we have been talking about here for weeks and months gone by, getting very busy and active. Beryl, of course, last week, now across the Gulf of Mexico and off into the western Atlantic. And we're keeping an eye on a system drifting in off of the Pacific through Baja. So busy weather over the southwestern part of the country, at least an inch or two on top of the cleanup and recovery in through Texas and the western Gulf Coast areas, out through the Outer Banks and westward through the Appalachians. There may be some significant moisture with a kind of stalled out tropical system hybrid there. Look at the wide and expansive areas from shower and thunderstorm activity, particularly early in the week across the upper Midwest, back into the Northeast and New England. What a reach Beryl had last week from Texas all the way into the Northeast and New England. That could be maybe the benchmark and vanguard to how the tropics play out this summertime season. On to the extended outlook here, the 4-week forecast. And again, some relief from the spells of heat. This hot ridge has been kind of retrograding back and forth, Midwest into the plains to the western states. So we get into a punch of some delightful outdoor work weather and fair going weather for the Great Lakes region, eastern Corn Belt locales, triple digit readings from maybe the Nebraska Panhandle back across the Divide country and into the valleys of California. The tropics not only busy in the Atlantic basin here, but coming off of Baja in the Pacific into New Mexico, the Southwest, including the waterlogged areas of Texas. Some drought relief is expected. We'll take it over the southeastern part of the country into the northeast of New England. A drying out process underway over some of the wetter areas of the upper Midwest and western Corn Belt. Heading through the late days of July into August, keeping an eye on those double crop areas and any leftover lingering pollinating corn out there. There's going to be a wide calendar for that this year, I believe. Look at the heat across the nation's midsection, probably pushing 100 into parts of Iowa, Missouri, western Illinois. Low to mid-90s to the eastern states, back in through the valleys of California at least. Slightly cooler air for the northeast and New England. We'll get a couple of ridge-riding thunderstorm clusters out of Big Sky country, but a drying process for the upper Midwest. Back into drier weather along with the heat through much of the central Corn Belt locales. Once again, the tropics busy through Texas again, the Gulf Coast and the southeastern portions of the country. Into August we go, and the heat a little more seasonal in nature for much of the Corn Belt. Back into the western states, still this northwest to southeast jet stream pattern. Another lobe of cool air situating itself up towards the Sioux into the northeast and New England. Lots of dry time with at least a more seasonal southwestern monsoon set up there. Dry weather for much of the Great Plains, western and southwestern Corn Belt locales. Tropics again busy in the Atlantic, down through the Gulf of Mexico as well with showers and thunderstorms. It's going to be a busy one well into early autumn.
Our Farm Progress Roundup is sponsored by Brandt Industries. Lead the field with Brandt's lineup of heavy-duty grain carts and make the most of your harvest season. Visit brandt.ca for more. Crops across Iowa, that corn crop anyway, should be near pollination. And Wallace's farmer editor, Gil Gullickson, has been out taking a look. He joins us now. Gil, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with us this week.
You're welcome.
Now, we've seen Iowa crops in the news a lot. We've seen flooding, we've seen extreme heat. Gil, you've been out and about touring. What have you seen?
Well, I was out last week, Tuesday and Wednesday, attending a few meetings west of Des Moines and also up in north central and northwest Iowa. And actually, it's kind of a mix. In fact, I stopped to take a picture of a oats field about 40 miles southwest of Des Moines because there just aren't that much oats in the sea of corn and soybeans across Iowa. And when I was taking pictures of the oats, I looked down and there were soil cracks in the ground. Now, I think they've gotten some rain since then, but it's just all over. Like I took US 169 up to a meeting at Sutherland, Iowa, at the Iowa State Research Farm up there last Wednesday. And up until I hit Cherokee, everything from the road looked fairly good, but then the worm turned. As soon as I hit Cherokee, I had to take a detour. And at that field day, it was just pouring the whole time. In fact, I was wondering if I was able to get my car out of the parking grass that I was on. I mean, there was standing water. And coming back, I had to take a detour of a detour. So in that area, it's just really hard hit. And I know I saw some figures this morning from Gentry Sorensen, the Iowa State Extension agronomist who covers that area. And I think the area of Spencer, it's had like something like 25 inches of rain since April 10th. And, since then, it looked really bad. But when I got south of Cherokee, maybe 20, 25 miles, hit this town of Holsey, crops look pretty good. And that area has dodged it. And then I took US Highway 20 over in eastern Iowa, got south of Fort Dodge, stopped, took a picture of a beautiful field of tasseling corn, just ready to tassel. Soybeans were a little bit wet in that area. And then I get 10 miles south of there and you see fields at the end. The soybeans were just flooded. And continuing down as I got to Des Moines, I stopped and I took a picture of a soybean field by this little town of Luther. And on our slideshow that's running today on wallacesfarmer.com, I put as pretty a soybean field I ever saw. I mean, it's blooming and it's starting to canopy and the sun was just hitting it perfectly. So really, there's devastating flooding in north central and northwest Iowa, but there's other parts where the crop is looking fantastic.
We'll see how it all shakes out when those combines roll. You can see that slideshow at wallacesfarmer.com. Gil Gullickson, editor there at Wallace's Farmer, thanks for filling us in this week.
You're welcome.
Stay with us. Later in the program, we'll be learning more about Fence New Lodge in Minnesota.
Next on This Week in Agribusiness, it's Max's Tractor Shed, where we spotlight another great American farm tractor. In the shed this weekend is a Massey Ferguson tractor from a family farm we visited almost a decade ago. Max's Tractor Shed is brought to you by Mystic Lubricants. Mystic Lubricants are made to make it last. Well, my retired commercial airline pilot friend Bill Ohm has put together a map of all the airports in the world where he landed a plane during his career. It's a remarkable map to take a look at, to be sure. I told him I wanted to do the same thing with farms we visited. And here is a family farm tractor from a farm we visited in Salisbury, North Carolina, about 10 years ago. A family farm in the spotlight again this year because they were designated as the North Carolina Conservation Farm Family of the Year, the Starnes family. Kim and Connie Starnes started farming in 1975 there in Rowan County, North Carolina, with this tractor, a 1974 Massey Ferguson 135. It was restored not too long ago, and it was right there in the spotlight a few weeks back as they were honored as the state's Conservation Farm Family of the Year. A very nice honor for the Starnes family right there. 4S Farms, it is called, at Salisbury, North Carolina. Mark Stock is here with his weekly report from Big Iron now.
Hello, Max. If you're looking for late model machinery, please check out BigIron.com this week. Sinclair Tractor will sell 148 items on Monday, July the 15th. Items include 2020 Versatile 610 DD Quad Track Tractor. They have several John Deere S780 combines selling, several planters, Brent grain carts, and gravity wagons. On Wednesday, July the 17th, a Russ Cook retirement sale by Newcastle, Nebraska, featuring a John Deere 8410T track tractor, John Deere 9870 combine. Also on July 17th is the Mark Brockhouse estate sale by Madison, Nebraska, selling a John Deere 6130M mechanical front tractor with a loader. There's a 1992 International 4900 tandem axle grain truck that's super sharp. And on July the 18th, P&K Equipment will sell a John Deere 9RX 540 quad track tractor. They'll also sell a 2023 John Deere X9 1000 combine. The selection of equipment selling next week, Max, is outstanding. Please do your due diligence and check out BigIron.com.
Our FFA Chapter Tribute is brought to you by Pioneer, developing new generations of seed innovations for new generations of farmers. Pioneer, what's next happens here. This week, we're learning a little bit more about Chillicothe, Missouri. Joining us is Glenna Barnett. She was recently elected the second vice president of the Chillicothe chapter. Glenna, thanks so much for talking with us this week.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Tell us a little bit about Chillicothe, Missouri. Where is it, and is it connected to agriculture?
Chillicothe, Missouri is in north central Missouri, about 60 miles from the Iowa border. And yes, we're a very rural community.
And what got you interested or involved in FFA to start with?
Well, my parents are both members of the FFA when they were in high school. And I've always been into agriculture, and I thought it would be a good path to try my foot in.
What have been your favorite parts so far of being an FFA member there in your chapter?
Oh my goodness, there are so many neat experiences. I've met so many people and all the leadership events I've been able to go to.
And I understand we're talking to you from a leadership event right now, is that right?
Yes.
Where are you?
Part of my SAE is quarter horses. I am in Amarillo, Texas at the Youth Excellence Seminar for the AQHYA.
And I bet you're learning a lot and meeting some interesting people, aren't you?
Oh yeah.
So now when school starts back up, you'll be the second vice president at your chapter. What are you excited about in this next year, Glenna?
Just getting everyone involved. We have a very large chapter, and I'm so excited for all the community service projects and the meetings in general.
It's going to be getting started before you know it. And do you hope in your future to work in the ag industry, Glenna?
Yes.
Well, we certainly wish you the best of luck. There's a lot to come. Thanks for taking the time to join us on This Week in Agribusiness.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Take care.
You too.
Colby Ag Tech is brought to you by Copperhead Ag Products. Visit copperheadag.com for more information. The price of everything we use on our farms continues to go up, and that makes it more important to keep it secure. Chad Colby joins us with a new tool for your security system.
Are you in the market for an off-grid security camera, a camera that does not need electricity or Wi-Fi? Well, check this out. This is Vosker's new VKX camera. You can see right on the top of it, it's got this new and improved solar panel, and the design is pretty different from other models that I've had from Vosker. It's got a big place there you can see on the front for a battery, and of course all the controls and stuff are inside the lid. Now, this camera comes with everything you need, and one of the things I like about this a lot is it comes with all the hardware to mount it, because who knows where you might end up putting this camera. You can see here once I got everything out of the package, I like the fact that the mounting now is from the back of the camera. You simply mount this flat plate and you attach that arm, which hooks to the back of the camera. It works pretty slick. It also comes with a mount if you're going to mount it, say, into wood, maybe the side of a barn or a corn crib or a pole. You attach that bracket to the back and you're in business. One other thing you have to remember, and there's a big sticker on the battery when you get it, you've got to charge it the first time so that way the solar can keep up. The other thing that's real nice about that new design is you can mount it and still get access to the camera by opening up the front of it without taking the camera down. One of the things I wanted to show you once I powered up the unit on the app, now because of cellular connectivity, which is 4G LTE, so you have to make sure you have that. You can go right in and check the status of the camera. And most importantly, you can log in and change all the settings. And maybe that's the deterrent light or motion detection. You can also go into the plans. There's different price points. It varies between $9 a month and $18, depending on what you want to do as far as getting that data back to you. Certainly, it has automation around all those alerts. It's really cool. For This Week in Agribusiness, I'm Chad Colby.
Thank you, Chad, for that update. Whether you're using it to keep a barn secure or perhaps on a trail, if you're watching out for things to go hunting for, that looks like a pretty useful tool there on the farm. We'll have more This Week in Agribusiness when we return. Modern-day farm equipment is complex, and that makes maintenance more important than ever. Recently, I was up at the new Fendt Lodge in Jackson, Minnesota, and I had the chance to talk with Ben Matthews about their Gold Star warranty and how it's bringing peace of mind to Fendt owners. Ben, let's talk about the Gold Star warranty. This is something Fendt brings to the table. Can you tell us what it is?
Yes, yeah. Every Fendt machine comes with our Fendt Gold Star customer care program. Really what that means if I'm a customer is I have peace of mind, I have uptime guarantee, I also understand my total cost of ownership, and best of all, it's also backed by our best-in-class parts availability. So when you think about what Gold Star is, it's 3 years of warranty. So every machine comes with 3 years of warranty, also 3 years of your scheduled maintenance. If something were to happen and your machine were to go down, we have loaner support available. And then last but not least, we also have our dealerships there to service you whatever you need.
So if I'm a Fendt owner, what does the Gold Star warranty mean to me as an owner?
Yes, so as an owner, it really takes your ownership experience over for you. So when you're a customer and that scheduled maintenance needs to be done, our dealerships will go on your farm and complete that maintenance. Included with each of those maintenance is also an inspection. So outside of just making sure that your machine is maintained properly, we're also inspecting to make sure that you can have that maximum uptime.
Ben, these tractors keep growing more complex. They keep getting more expensive. How does the Gold Star warranty help preserve that machine's value?
One of the things that you most often forget is that when you have a machine that's well maintained, the second owner then can see that machine is maintained at a very high level. Therefore, we can have higher resale value. So we see that our Fendt tractors and really machines overall have a higher resale value because of the Gold Star experience.
The buyers, the second buyers, have that confidence that the machine has been cared for.
Exactly, exactly.
And so much of this comes back to the quality of parts that are used in these machines.
Yep.
Ben, how does Fendt stand out when it comes to either part quality or aftermarket service?
Fendt has 1, OE quality parts, 2, backed by industry-leading parts warranty. So we got 1 year of parts warranty and then 6 months of labor. that's also backed by best-in-class parts availability. Not only does AGCO have the parts somewhere here in North America, but our dealerships also have them at their dealerships themselves. And if the part is not here somehow in North America, we have every single day a plane that flies from Europe over to North America to make sure that we can get you up and running as fast as possible.
That is an uptime guarantee, Ben.
Yes, it is.
What happens when the warranty ends? Eventually, this tractor is going to last longer than 3 years.
Yes.
What happens at that point?
So one of the nice things is because this Gold Star experience is so beneficial to customers, we have the ability for that customer, if they want to own that machine for more than 3 years, they can extend it out if they like to. So an example would be out to 5 years if that's how long they plan to own that machine. They can get that extended out. The other thing when we think about this total experience is we also have an e-commerce platform. So not only do you have the parts that you would need from a service experience, but if there's any other thing that you would need, we have that available on our e-commerce platform.
Ben, thank you so much for talking with us this week.
Hey, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Ben, for that update on the Fendt Gold Star warranty. And folks, we'll have one more conversation coming from the Fendt Lodge here in the next few weeks. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us today for This Week in Agribusiness. We'll be back next weekend covering everything that matters to agriculture. So be sure to join us next time right here for This Week in Agribusiness.
This Week in Agribusiness has been brought to you by Case IH. Solutions for every challenge. Equipment for every farm. Case IH, built by farmers. This Week in Agribusiness is produced by 22 Creative Group and has been a presentation of Farm Progress Broadcast. We invite you to visit us online at agbizweek.com.